Hello coders, I hope you are coding well. In this video, we will build Bitcoin price tracker and our project will fetch the latest price of the Bitcoin and display on the screen, and it will automatically refresh the price after 30 seconds, and we will add a button as well to refresh the price manually, and we will build this project in Angular 19. So let's get started. So to start, we need to create a new Angular application, and to do this we need to open a folder, and then we will right click and we will open terminal in this folder, and then we need to give the command to create a new Angular project, and we will give this as ng new, and then we need to give our project name, and let's give this as BTC tracker, and now let's hit enter. And now it will ask us some questions, and the first question is which style sheet format would you like to use, and we will give this as SAS SCSS, and then it is asking to enable server-side rendering, and we will answer this as no, and now it will install the npm packages. Now let's wait for some time. And as you can see, our packages installation completed successfully, and in the result we got our project folder. And now let's close this terminal and let's open this folder in the VS Code. And as you can see, I opened that folder in the VS Code, and this folder contains our basic Angular application. And now let's open our app.config.ts inside the app folder, and in this app config we need to provide HTTP client because we will make HTTP call to fetch the price. And to do this we will go to this providers array, and in this we will write provide HTTP client, and we will import it from angular slash common slash http. And now let's save this file, and after this we need to create a service, and to do this we will right click on this app folder and we will choose a new folder, and we will name this folder as services, and then we will right click on this services folder and we will open it in integrated terminal. And in this terminal we need to give the command to create the service, and we will give this as ng g for generate, s for service, and we will name this service as Bitcoin. And as you can see, our Bitcoin service is ready. And now let's open this folder, and then we will open bitcoin.service.ts, and in this service first of all we need to inject HTTP client, and to do this in the constructor we will write private, and we will name this as HTTP, and after this we will write HTTP client and we will import it from angular slash common slash HTTP. And after this we need to create a variable where we will store the API URL, and we will name this variable as API, and you can pause the video and you can copy this URL. And now we need to create a method to call the API and fetch the price, and we will name this method as getUSD price, and this method will return observable, and we will import it from RxJS, and this will be of type number, and in the body of this method we will write return statement, and then we will use our HTTP client, and then we will call get method because this API is get API, and in this method we need to pass our URL, and to do this we will write this dot API, and after this from the response we need to get the USD price, and to do this we will call dot pipe method, and in this pipe method we will use map method and we will import it from RxJS, and in this pipe method let's name the value as res, and then we will write an arrow function, and then we will use our res variable, and then we will call dot bitcoin dot USD, and after this let's mention the return type of this get method, and let's give this as any. And with this our get USD price method is completed in the Bitcoin service. And now let's save this file, and now we need to create a new component, and to do this we will right click on this app folder and we will choose a new folder, and we will name this folder as components, and then we will right click on this components folder and we will open it in integrated terminal. And in this terminal let's give the command ng g for generate, c for component, and we will name this component as tracker. And as you can see, our tracker component is ready. And now let's open this folder, and then we will open tracker.component.ts. And in this tracker component, in the imports array, we need to import common module. So let's write common module, and we will import it from angular/common. And this module export all the basic Angular directives and pipes such as ngIf and ngFor. And now in this component we need to create some variables, and first of all we need a variable to store the price, and we will name this variable as price USD, and the type of this will be number or null, and for by default value we will assign this null. And then we need to create a variable to store the indication of loading, and we will name this variable as loading, and after this we will set it to false. And after this we need to create a variable to store the time when the price last updated, and we will name this variable as last updated, and the type of this will be date or null, and for by default value we will assign null. And now let's create a constructor in this component, and in this constructor we need to inject our Bitcoin service, and to do this we will write private, and we will name this as BTC, and then we will write Bitcoin service, and we will import it from our services package. And after this we need to create a method to call the service method and save the price, and we will name this method as fetch price. And in this method first of all we need to update our loading to true, and to do this we will write this dot loading is equals to true. And after this we will use our Bitcoin service, and then we will call a method get USD price, and then we will subscribe the response, and we will name this as price, and then we will write an arrow function, and in this function we need to save the price in our price USD variable, and then we need to update our last updated time, and at the end we will set the loading to false. So first of all we will use our price USD variable, and we will set the price in it, and after this we will use our last updated variable, and in this we will set new date, and after this we will use our loading variable, and we will set the value in it as false. And with this our fetch price method is completed, and now we need to create a method to manually update the price, and in that method we will simply call this fetch price method, and we will name this method as manual refresh, and in the body of this method we will simply call fetch price method. And after this we need to create a method so we can set the price at the start, and then we will create the functionality to automatically refresh it, and to do this we will use ng-on-init hook of Angular, and in this we will call this dot fetch price method, and by doing this on the load event of the page we are getting the price and we are showing to the user. And then we need to create the functionality to automatically refresh the price, and to do this we will use interval function from RxJS, and in this method first of all we need to pass the delay or the period, and we will give this as 30,000, which is equal to 30 seconds. And after this we will subscribe to this, and then we will write an arrow function, and in this we will simply call our fetch price method. And with this our TS code is completed, and now let's save this file. And after this we need to write the HTML code to show the price and related details, and to do this we will open tracker.component.html, and in this file we will remove our existing code, and we will create a div, and we will give it a class of tracker container, and in this tracker container we will create another div, and we will give it a class of card, and in this card we will create h2 tag, and we will show the text as Bitcoin price tracker, and after this we will create a p tag, and we will give it a class of auto refresh, and for the text we will write auto refreshes every 30 seconds. And after this we need to write the code to show the loading indication, and to do this we will create a div, and we will give it a class of loading, and on this div we will apply ngIf, and we will show this div if our loading is true. And after this in this loading div we will create a div, and we will give it a class of spinner, and then we will write the text as fetching latest price. And after this we need to show the price, and to do this we will again create a div and we will give it a class of price. And after this we will apply ngIf condition on this div as well, and we will show this div if our price USD is not equal to null and our loading is false. And in this div we will create a span tag and we will give it a class of currency, and in this we will write USD and the symbol of Bitcoin. And after this we will create another span and we will give it a class of value, and in this we will use interpolation and we will show the value of variable price USD, and then we are using number pipe to format the value, and after the point we will show only two digits. And after this we need to create a button for the manual refresh, and to do this we will use button tag, and for the text we will write refresh now, and then we will use click event of this button, and on the click we will call a method manual refresh. And after this we need to show last updated time, and to do this we will use p tag and we will give it a class of updated time, and we will only show this p tag if we have some value in the last updated variable. And in this p tag for the text we will write last updated, and then we will use last updated variable, and after this we will use date pipe, and for the format we are passing short time, and this will give us or n minute of the time. And with this our HTML code is completed as well. And now let's save this file, and after this we need to write the styling code, and to do this we will open tracker.component.scss, and in this file first of all we will add the styling for our tracker container, and after the basic styling to align it in the center we are giving the background and we are giving linear gradient, and after this to animate the background we are using gradient shift animation which we will create later. And after this we will add the styling for our card, and after the card we will add the styling for h2 in the card, and after this for the auto refresh we will animate using a pulse animation, and then we are giving a basic styling to the span in the auto refresh, and after this we will add the styling for our spinner, and in this we are using the spin animation, and then we will add the styling for the price and currency, and after this we will add the styling for the button, and then we will add styling for our updated time. And now we need to create the animations, and first of all we will create gradient shift animation, and in this we are simply updating the background position percentages, and then we will create fade in animation for our card, and then let's create an animation for the spin where we are basically rotating the object, and at the end we are creating pulse animation where we are just updating the opacity. And with this our CSS code is completed as well, and you can pause the video and you can copy this basic styling. And now let's save this file, and after this we need to write the code to show our tracker component in our app component, and to do this we will open app.component.ts, and in this file in the imports array we need to import our tracker component, and to do this we will remove existing router outlet, and after this we will write tracker component and we will import it from our components folder. And now let's save this file, and then we will open app.component.html, and in this file we will remove existing code, and after this we will add the selector of our tracker component. And now let's save this file as well, and at the end we need to assign padding 0 and margin 0 to the body, and to do this we will open index.html, and in this file in the body tag we will add the style and we will set the padding and margin to 0. And now let's save this file, and after this let's create a new terminal, and in this terminal let's write the command to run our Angular application which is npm start. And now let's hit enter, And as you can see, our application is up without any errors. And now let's go to the browser and let's validate the functionality of our BTC tracker. And in our browser we will hit localhost 4200, and as you can see we got a card with animated background, and in this card we got the heading as Bitcoin price tracker. And after this we can see the price of the Bitcoin, and then we have a refresh button, and at the end we have last updated time. And as you can see it is updating the price after 30 seconds automatically. And now if we want to manually refresh the price, we will click on this button, and as you can see we got the latest price. And that's it for today's video, and we will meet you in a new project video.